Hi, I'm Greg. I am the game dev coach. I'm the creator of superhero coding here. I am here today to teach you how to make a game. I am live streaming one game a month, and my hope is that as you watch these, you're going to start to see how the pieces fit together. So many people that I help as I do different tutoring and classes and teaching, so many people just don't understand how all the pieces fit together, or they follow tutorials and they just don't quite get it when they're trying to make their own thing happen. So this is the October 2023 first session. I believe this month I'm going to make a game like a Flappy Bird kind of game. Now, most developers could make a Flappy Bird game in an afternoon if they're experienced. This whole series is aimed at people that have done a little bit of Unity, maybe understand a little bit of code, you understand loops, functions, conditionals, variables, but maybe haven't done them in Unity, to show you that you can make a complete game, simple. It's not so much about the parts, it's about connecting them, and that's going to be a key focus of what we're doing here. And so without anything further, we're going to jump right. So, let's see. I want to show you. Let's do that. 3. Yeah. All right. One of the things that I said I was going to do was I was going to show everything. The reason I'm live streaming these instead of recording separately and editing and all that is because it makes me crazy when I'm trying to follow a tutorial and somebody skips a step, or you don't know if they skipped a step or whatever. So from the very beginning, I created a new project. I've got a folder, I've got a location, 3D core is what I'm going to pick. I'm going to click create project. Now, while that does that, so this is the channel that you're watching on, hopefully. Superhero Coding. Learn a superpower, new game every month, scripts and code at superherocoding.com. So this is a collection of scripts. This is not the Unity scene we're going to be using. This is a Unity scene I'm going to draw from. This is a collection of scripts that I call the sidekick scripts. Get it? Because superhero and sidekick. You know, like Robin was a sidekick before he was a superhero. So the basic idea is there are some basic scripts that are short. Most of these don't even scroll, a dozen lines, maybe a couple dozen lines. I've got some of the more advanced ones that really are not much longer. And if they are, it's because they've got comments and stuff. We're going to use these to start. I'm not including all of these with the lesson. I'm going to put these up for sale for like $7 at superherocoding.com at some point in the future if you just want to get this collection of scripts and tutorials and things that go with it. What I am going to do, though, if you're watching this, you are free to follow along and do what I do, period. These videos are not going anywhere. If you're following this and you want to get my code and my assets and art and anything else, the first week's always free. If you're signed up on the email list at superherocoding.com, you will get that list of, you will get the Unity package file that contains all the scenes, materials, scripts, whatever, and the scenes where everything is arranged. If for the first week's always free for everybody. Weeks 2, 3, and 4, as we get more and more advanced, you're still welcome to follow along, or if you want my stuff, it's going to be $30, at least at the time of this recording. That's not set up at the moment, but I will have that set up by the end of the second session, which will be next week. But I say that to say, I always start with some scripts. I've got a code library. I've been working with Unity almost 15 years now, and I've got a library of functions that I rely on. And sometimes I do start from scratch, but a lot of times, especially if I'm making something simple, I go back to that library of scripts and I start with something basic and I pull in a couple of simple things and build something new. So today I'm going to spend about another 45 minutes or so. We're going to make a Flappy Bird game over several sessions. As I said earlier, a Flappy Bird game is not terribly complicated, but we're going to do some of the game manager and lives and scoring and in-screen and all of that before we're done. So let me show you what the... All right, we're still loading. So let me show you an example of what you can do with a couple of really simple scripts. So this is not included in the free stuff. This will be another lesson next month or the month after where I make a Space Invaders or Galaga type game. Got a lot of small games that I'll be able to build in basically 4 sessions. The plan is 1 session a week, and I will build these in about an hour-ish each week, and it'll be a complete but simple but complete game. So here is a scene I've got called Player and Boss Move. It is super simple. Now, if you're looking at this and you've never used Unity, on my YouTube channel, there is a playlist that is, let's see, let's pull that up. Why don't we do that? I've got a playlist on my YouTube channel, youtube.com superhero coding, youtube.com @superhero coding, but you probably knew that. I've got a playlist called How to Make a Game in Unity 2020 Beginner Edition. So switch over to here. And if you go to the main channel, you're looking for this one. How to Make a Game in Unity. If you're totally new to Unity, start here. Because this has information that you really kind of need to know. When you're working with Unity, you need to know what materials and scenes are. You need to know what game objects and colliders are. Learning about writing your first code, variables. Now, if you have programming experience in other languages, doesn't really matter what the language is. Most languages are going to have variables and loops and conditionals and that stuff. Still, come watch, the first 3, and you're going to learn a lot about Unity, the scenes, the game objects, the colliders, components. If you've never done any code, you'll probably also want to watch these next handful, and then we start to get into a little bit of code here at the end. So that's going to be helpful. I'm going to assume that you know at least a little bit of Unity, or at least you've opened it up and you've tried. Now, this scene looks different. I've rearranged it a little bit. When we get to the new scene, which should be created now, I will rearrange things as I do. I'm not going to go over everything in tremendous detail. This is not meant to be a step-by-step beginner tutorial. This is meant to be a tutorial for people who have tried to learn Unity, tried to follow some YouTube tutorials, got lost, got frustrated, didn't understand all the different things, just followed along as they said, click this, do that, copy and paste this. And they didn't explain why. If you're nodding your head, this video is for you. This series is for you. 1 game a month. For people like you who have tried to learn Unity, couldn't, not your fault. Because bad Unity tutorials. Old, outdated Unity tutorials. I've got Unity tutorials literally from 10 years ago that are still showing up on search results this week. Now, why would I not delist those? They're painfully outdated, but it can help draw people to this tutorial, which is brand new. Anyway, yeah, this is going to be for people who want to learn how to make games, don't really know where to start, or they've tried and didn't really get it. Enough said. Let me show you a quick demo of 3 of the superhero scripts in action, and then we're going to jump into making our Flappy Bird type game. I'm going to load this. Scene is loaded. I'm going to hit play while I take a drink of tea. All right. So we've got something moving at the top, moving across. We've got something at the bottom. If I use my arrow keys, it moves, D or right arrow moves it that way, A or left arrow, you get it. If I hit spacebar, it shoots bullets. Now, there's no interaction between the objects, but already this looks like a game. It's not far from being a game. The bullets are a little slow and, there's no collision, but let me show you how much is behind the scenes, and it's going to be a whole lot less than you actually think. There are 3, other than the floor and the camera and light that come with every Unity scene, and other than the floor, you've got 3 objects. You've got a player object, you've got a player bullet object that's a child, and you've got a boss object. There's different scripts on each one. Move and wrap with parameters, which sounds scary and isn't. You've got a move speed, and then you've got a max X and a min X. When it gets to the max X, it resets over at the min X. If I go over here, we can see once it gets to a certain point, it resets. If I crank up the speed, that's even more obvious. You can watch over here and see when it gets to 11, because that's what I said, then it moves to negative 11. If I wanted to keep it off screen longer, I do that and I keep it out further. So now it goes. That's one script. Let's open that up. Or even right there, there's the preview. That's the whole script. 24 lines, maybe. And a lot of that are just the comments. So that's JetBrains Writer opening up, which is what I use for my personal projects. I've got that to distinguish when I copy and paste from these scripts into the Visual Studio stuff, which is what I'll be doing. So there's one script still opening, but you can see the boss is using this one script that's 24 lines. The player moving back and forth using one script that is a little bit longer, but again, a lot of that is commented out, and this isn't even optimized. A lot of these scripts have been made for clarity rather than like optimal production code, but a lot of production code does not have to be super duper optimized. It just doesn't. You'd be surprised, and I've done a lot of production code. So yeah, here's the move and wrap with parameters. And I'm not going to go over all this. I'll go over all of it in more depth next time when we, or whatever month it is, whatever game of the month, where I'm building a Galaga type game. Again, the bullet, simple script, handful of lines. That's it. All right, so let's go back and start building the game. All right, thing looks to be working good. So I'm going to switch back over. Let's go to, all right, here's the new project. Let's go full unit. Nope, that's not the right one. We'll do that. All right. So this is what Unity looks like when you open it up. For the first time, this is the default layout. I'm not a huge fan. You probably won't have this. That's a throwback because I'm using an old version. My version of Unity will have some things that yours doesn't. It's okay. Again, I've been using it for 15 years. I'm just going to make sure that, well, almost 15 years. I want the script editor here to be Visual Studio 2017. Generally, you will leave that alone unless there's a problem. If it's set to system files, it's not going to work great because generally systems don't know open a file extension. Not a good option. because systems don't know what to do with the .cs file. Colors, a lot of people ask me this. I have under colors, general, play mode, tint. This, you see how the screen turns pink when I hit play? That is the play mode tint at work. Because Unity makes a copy of the scene. When you hit play mode, come out of play mode, it goes back to whatever it was. That just helps people remember. I'm gonna mess with that one. Okay. I'm gonna rearrange this the way that I always do at the beginning. I like my game window side by side with my scene window. I like the hierarchy over here. This is the way Unity used to be set up. And I like my project window at the bottom of the scene. And I like the one column layout. So again, if you're brand new, you probably want to go back and watch the series on my channel, Making a Game in Unity 2020. It's still super relevant. Everything in there should work with, 2021, 22, 23 versions of Unity, whatever it is. So, empty scene, empty project. Very daunting for some people. I love it. It's my favorite part. And move things out a little bit just so that anything in the bottom corner, it's not a problem. So I use a lot of hotkeys. I'll mention them a first time or two that I use them. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get some stuff in the scene. So a cube. I want a cube. I want it to be... Okay, I lied. I'm not going to mention hotkeys every time I use them. Scale is over here. Also R on your keyboard. W. I use a lot of hotkeys. Use them, learn them, love them, live them. It's a good thing to do. Okay. All right. Getting things arranged by Alt and then clicking in here, left clicking, Alt and middle mouse clicking and dragging will pan. Alt left click will rotate. Pretty much the way I navigate the whole scene. So, Flappy Bird. We need things that move. All right. So I'm going to go to my scripts. Go to the toolkit over here. I think the move and wrap with parameters is what I want. Double click that. I'm going to open that over here. I'm just going to grab the whole thing. Switch back over here. I'm going to create a couple of folders. Select stay organized. I'm going to create scripts. Create materials. I've already got scenes. I don't need that. That's enough for now. I'm going to create a C# script called move and wrap. So this name, the name of the class, has to match the file name exactly. If it doesn't, you will have problems. Let's double click at that, and that will open up Visual Studio 2017. That a second, and then we're gonna, actually I don't need all the code. I'm gonna grab everything in the class except for the top and the bottom brackets. Don't need all this. We redid update, but that's fine. All right, move and wrap. So this does what it says and what we just showed. So if you're watching, please drop hashtag live or hashtag replay. No, it's YouTube, yeah, hashtags. And let me know what you think about the idea. Let me know if I'm going way too fast. Let me know if switching between two sets of Unity and two sets of scripts is too confusing. It might be. I might need to just copy and paste the scripts over and tweak them. But in the end, pay attention to what's happening here in the October 2023 sample scene. I go back over here and switch the scene just to go back to that to differentiate. So move and wrap, done. The move and wrap code, like I said, it moves. We get the local position. We check the X. it's less than min x, then it sets it to max x. If it's bigger than max x, it sets it to min x. This way, the code works whether I'm moving left to right or right to left. Beautiful. And then we just set up a new position. So I'm going to drag that onto here because everything in the project, not part of the scene, doesn't work. Everything in the scene ignores anything in the project that's not here. So cube has move and wrap. If I hit play, it should move from one direction to the other, and it's too slow. So 5 or 7, that's not bad. Don't hate it. It's probably pretty good. The wrap is pretty good. It's yeah, good enough. All right, so I'm going to remember that move speed 7 is what I want. Because remember, when I come out of play mode, it resets everything. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to paste that in because that's what I want. That speed of 7, and we're good. To make more things, I'm going to, first I'm going to get one of them right, and then I'm going to duplicate them and tweak them as needed. So, all right. Duplicate, Control D, Command D if you're on a Mac. I duplicated the cube. Now I'm going to move it up, give a little bit of a gap in there. I could run these where they just move individually like that. That's not terrible. Go, they wrap, they move. One of the other options is to set it so that one of these is a child of the other. Well, I moved it, so I messed it up. If I make this a child of the other one, that works, but you've got to take off the move and wrap cube, because otherwise the child object is moving, but it's also inheriting the movement from parent. So I'm going to go to this component and remove it. Now they're moving as they should be. I'm going to do that just to keep the scene kind of clean. Component, well, actually I could do it the other way. Might be easier for collisions, but this is fine. It really doesn't matter. Okay, well, I'll do it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna do it like this. No, I'm gonna do it the other way. There's, like so many things in programming, there's a bunch of different ways to do anything. And I'm just kind of thinking through the pros and the cons, and I'm talking these out while, I mean, that's my goal in doing this. So if I have these separated, then when I hit play, max X and min X and move speed, yes, and I can duplicate these, but the problem is that if I go, oh, you know what, this is a little bit slow, I want to make it a little bit faster. Well, now one of them's going faster than the other, and then I got to go back and I got to adjust this one to the right thing. And if I go, well, you know, I want it actually to go out further before it wraps, all those problems go away if I remove the component from the second one and make it a child. I'm going to call this upper barrier, and this one is going to be called lower barrier. Now, this one controls all the movement, and this one still has a collider on it, which we're going to want to check for collisions to see if the game's over and stuff. But now that everything is just on the parent object, lower barrier, anything I want to do, if I want to move it up, if I want to slow it down, if I want to change how far out it goes before it loops, any of that kind of stuff, it's all much, much, much easier to do. It's a super short loop. So that's why I ended up doing it this way. To put it there, I need to put a post on my screen so I know where my head is. This instead. Yep. Okay. All right. I'm going to save my scene. I just wrote over sample scene. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Control Shift S. I'm gonna go into my scenes, and I'm gonna say Flappy Game _ 01. Go back to my sample scene, delete that, so that we've got sort of a clean one. I mean, a lot of times it just delete the sample scene, it doesn't matter. Flappy Game 01. All right. Why do I use _01? And my next one will be, you guessed it, _02. Why is that? That is because sometimes files corrupt. Sometimes you want to experiment. Sometimes things go wrong. You're not going to know it if everything is in just one scene. If that one scene goes bad, your power goes out while it's right into the hard drive, your scene is toast. I've seen it happen so many times. Photoshop files, Word docs, all kinds of stuff over the years. If you've just got one, you're setting yourself up for failure. Version control is a good way to be around it. But even without all that, I still like having multiple versions of scenes. So that's the way I do it. And so much of this, I guess I should, so much of this is going to be the way that I prefer to do things. I am a professional programmer and have been since 1996. I am a professional game developer. I've been making games and releasing them for myself, for clients. I spent half my time every week for the last year working on a game. I've got a game I'm working on now for somebody, in addition to other programming stuff that I do. And so everything I show you may not be a Unity best practice, but it is battle proven, I promise. The way I do things here is the best way I've learned most of the time to do them. I still make public variables instead of serializing them. And you know what? It doesn't matter. I have shipped production code, dozens of apps, hundreds of updates with public variables. Doesn't matter. So if people scream at you because it's public variable, or they scream at me because I make my variables public, it's just easier. It's less typing. It's faster. That's why I do it. And it doesn't matter. It really, really doesn't, unless you're working with other programmers who are going to do stupid things to your code, in which case serializing isn't going to save you. Anyway, rant aside. Back to the code. All right. So here we are. We got a lower barrier and an upper barrier. All right. I'm going to duplicate. Control D. I'm going to move it down a little bit. I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to move it. And I'm just using Control D, Command D on the Mac. And I actually think that I'm moving the wrong way. I am. Flappy Bird is flying from this way, moving stuff the other direction. Oh no, what do we do? Well, the good news is our move and wrap code already does it. All right, watch this. So I'm still in play mode. I'm just going to test it. I'm going to click the top one, click the bottom one, and I'm going to come over here and do -7. And all three of them, you can't now, if I pick the camera on here, components that are only on some of the objects cannot be multi-edited. But all three of these, because they've got the same exact component on there, this move and wrap code, they all work just fine, just the same. All right. Checking the time. We're doing good on time. All right. So I know that I need that to be a -7. And I've still got all three selected. I'm going to move it over like this. So with 20 minutes of me talking and 15 minutes of me writing some code, we've already got the beginnings of a game. All right. So now I can take these and I can duplicate all three of them and move out over here and shift down a little bit, something like that. See how that works. I don't want to, that might be too much of a gap. No, they were too far out. So yeah, that's anything that's past the 11 mark, which is that one, is going to reset. So probably I need to change the max X and min X to be more like, where's our furthest one at? It's here, it's at 24. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab all those and I'm gonna do 25 and actually I can probably keep this the same because where they start is one thing. Where they, if they get off the screen and this is minus 11, just get over and see. So that's about where it goes, which is off my screen, and it resets. It's fine. If I want to test, grab all those and do move speed. If I want to triple it, I can just do ×3. Hit play. Yeah, it's not bad. Probably what I need to do though, that doesn't really work for me. Let's do like 15 and -15 on all of them. Probably what I need to do is I need to start with the whole thing a little bit more. Yeah. Welcome to game development. You have to try a lot of stuff to get stuff working like you want it to. That's just part of it. Okay. We'll get back to all of that. And I guess it works. I just need a few more. 25 -25. Probably what I need is I just need a few more on the other side already. So we start over here, and then we're hitting the space bar. We're flying up. We're flying down. It's got a little bit of a gap, but it's not terrible. It's not terrible. All right. Stop. I'm going to grab everything back to a move speed of -7. Now I'm going to Control-Shift-S to not save, but save as Flappy Game 02. So that if I want, I can go back to Flappy Game 01 with the original 1 barrier and still got something to work with. All right. That's not what we want. We are Flappy Game 02. So I don't love it. I don't hate it. That's going to be too much of a gap there to go down too quickly, to go from here to get in that one, but that's okay. All right, what we need next? Well, we need our bird. We can make all these. Well, let's make the bird first. Game object sphere. That over here, that's a little small, I think, compared to everything else. So I'm going to do like 2, 2, 2. That's better. We've got a sphere collider on there. We are going to add a rigid body. Rigid body is what lets us use gravity. So I hit play, and it's just going to drop like the rock that it is. So we need a script on this. We're going to create a C# script. We're going to call it spacebar to jump. Click that. Go back over to my code library, which is here, and see the thing I need. So let's look. Spacebar to jump. Perfect. I'm going to explain what all this does. That's probably the last one we're going to need today. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'll leave that up just for branding in case you forgot what channel you're on. All right, spacebar to jump. So paste that in. What does this do? Public float. Public means it'll be available in the inspector. Float is a floating point. number of decimals. That is the kind of variable. That is the name of the variable. This is the default value of the variable. We're also going to have a variable of rigid body type called this RB in start, which is called once before the first frame setup. This is where you set stuff up. We're going to get a reference and store it. It's better to do this in start and store it once than do it in update, because update happens constantly. And getting a component, it's not super expensive in terms of processing power, but if you do a lot of it or you're doing fines and things like that, it gets ugly very quickly. If input get key down, key code space, then take this rigid body. Remember, we had the rigid body, and that's what gives it gravity. We want to add force, none in the X, none in the Z, and jump force amount in the Y. That's all it does. Now, get key down, this says, will only trigger once per spacebar press, as opposed to get key, which fires off constantly. That done. Let's check it out. After we add it to the script, add it to the object. So spacebar to jump. Jump force 1. That's probably not going to be nearly enough. We'll start with 50. And sorry, not sorry, I have mechanical keyboards, kind of loud. That is not nearly enough. Okay. So, I'm going to organize. I'm going to make an empty and call this barriers. I'm going to zero that out. Going to take all those barriers and drop them in there so I can do that. I can take the whole thing and deactivate it. All right. I'm going to make a temporary floor. We'll use this for something else later, but it's good for now. Set it to 0, 0, 0. I'm going to move over my scene window with it selected and hit F to focus on it. Down. I'm going to over, scale it that way. I almost always use cubes as my floors for anything because while yes, there is a plane, it has too many polygons. That used to be the only option. And there's a quad, which has less polygons. But here's the problem. When you're dealing with physics and objects, they can fall through the plane or the quad. There's also normals, which means there's one side where you'll see it and another side where you won't. So I don't use them. I use a cube. The cube has some thickness to it, and that's a good thing when we're trying to calculate physics. All right. I did all that because my jump didn't work like I thought it was going to. So when things are not working like you think they should, you want to isolate the problem. Isolate the problem. So we're isolating the problem and making it easier to test. Sphere collider, I don't even mess with that. Rigid body, I don't even mess with that. It has to do with the jump force, but I needed this, and the cube comes with a box collider. So now I hit play, and it's going to fall on the floor. If I hit spacebar, oh, see, it is jumping. That was impossible to tell when it was falling, and all this other stuff is moving and all this other stuff. I mean, all that stuff's there. I can turn it back on. And just like that, well, now I'm clicking that, but if I click back in my game view, it's moving, which is good. So I say, okay, I jump force of 500. Okay, that's better. And if I hit space bar, yeah, okay, that is reasonable. If it's 250, that's a whole lot harder. It just does not add nearly as much. So part of game development is you're going to have to figure out what really kind of works well. Because, and this is how, switch. This is how game development is completely different from regular software development. With software, you've got a spec, hopefully. for example, that says, make a calculator. Okay, I can make a calculator. Does the calculator work? Great, your job's done. With a game, it's make a game about a flying bird. Well, how high does the bird go up when you hit the space bar? How fast do the barriers move? How far apart are they? These are things that you're just going to have to try them. It's just going to take a little while to figure out. So that's part of game development. You've got to try things and see. And your first guess is probably not going to be right. And that is how it is completely different from software development. There's so much more testing required. Game developers spend so much time testing their game until they're sick of it, if they're a good game developer anyway, to find the bugs so that the player doesn't have to. If I do my job right, you probably don't notice. And that is a downside of programming, but anyway, I digress. So, jump force of 250 is okay. This 500 is going to make it a little easier. That's actually probably going to run me into the top barriers too much. 300, and that seems like that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn the barriers back on. Now, nothing is even happening yet, but still, it kind of lets me whoop, and that's the one where I was like, that's going to be too much of a jump. Too high to too low. Yeah, there's no way to make that, which I expected. All right, I'm in play mode because everything's pink. I want to remember my jump force of 300. So that, all right, checking time, checking the stream. All right, watching, people enjoying it, I hope. If this has been useful, please drop a comment. Please like, please subscribe. That will help me out. I want to keep making videos like this. I plan to make one a week. And end up with 4 sessions a month that are about an hour each. Different game each month. That is the plan. Details at superherocoding.com. You get my source code and assets. First week's always free. Beyond that, check out the website. All right. So, turn my barriers back on. I'm going to take my floor. Actually going to name it floor. And I'm going to turn the mesh renderer off. So now it shows this as the mesh collider. That's different than turning off the whole object. If I set the whole object inactive, nothing happens. That takes everything away. The mesh renderer just means you're not going to see it. If I hit play, it's going to function exactly like it did before, that there's a floor here and the ball's going to fall and hit the floor and sit on the floor. Get angled more like that, you could see. But by turning off the mesh renderer, everything else is still active. Now watch, if I just turn off the whole floor object, it just drops. So we will eventually use this floor to check for, if we fall on the bottom of the screen, game's over, right? We can also use one to think. Right now I can keep hitting spacebar and go all the way up. We don't want that. So I'm going to duplicate the floor. I'm going to move it up, and I think, yeah. Now it's capped at the top, so I can't go too high and I can't go too low. And I can even move this floor down some so that it's near the bottom of the screen. Now I just have to remember, actually I'll move it there. Like, okay, if you hit that point, then you're dead. But now I need to remember while I'm in play mode, okay, basically, let's put that at 9 and let's put that at -9. That's good. All right, so the floor is at -9, and I'm going to duplicate it, call this ceiling, and put that at 9. And just for giggles, I'll just turn them both on. So we can see them. Let's make a few materials. We got a few minutes left here. Material, I'm going to call it green. I'm going to duplicate that, hit F2 on Windows to rename. That doesn't work on Mac. Most Unity stuff works identical on Windows and Mac. but F2 is a common Windows command for renaming a file. Doesn't work on Mac because it doesn't exist on Mac. Yellow, green, let's make a red, and let's make a blue. So you might say, well, cool, but those are not yellow, red, green, or blue. Right. Be an astute observer. All right, go back to full screen. And so what I'm going to do on green, I'm going to click this, and I'm going to move it to be green. Then I'm going to drag it onto an object. Cannot drag it into the game view. Can't do anything in the game view, but I still like to see it. But as I move it over objects in my scene view, it will light up different things. If I want all of those to change at once, I'm just using my arrow keys to go up and over to get all of them. I'm going to grab all of them. I'm going to expand the mesh renderer and the materials, drag that in there. Bam, now they're all green. Or yellow, which is actually white, but anyway, yeah. That's what I want, because all these objects are the same. Now they're all green. Sphere, of course, we know is yellow, which of course is not yellow yet. And I click that, and I go there and make it yellow. Now it's yellow. And that's, I can, of course, you can make these whatever color you want, and you can try it out. Since it's applied to the object already, I can get it looking just like I want. We still got some shadow coming from this, but red is the color I'm going to choose for the death things, which are not called that, but anyway. So I click this, I control click that, or command on Mac, command click, drag that in. It's red. I want a background, put a background up that is blue. I guess I'll do that. And this one, a plane or a quad is fine. I'm going to move it out. We are in 3D space, but look like it. That, do this, right. Drag blue on there. I'm not trying to make Flappy Bird exactly. It's been too long since I've played it. I probably couldn't if I wanted to. But I'm trying to make a game like Flappy Bird. My point is not to recreate Flappy Bird. My point is to show you how, with two scripts that are not very long, you've already got something really close to a Flappy Bird game. See, if it wasn't for that one, it'd be okay. And then we've got a gap in there, and I know that too, and that's fine. All right. So let me, first I'm going to save out my last scene. Not to scene, I'm going to call this Flappy Game 03. That. Look up here to make sure I am in Flappy Game 03. And I can go back to 2 and see how far we've come in the last 12 minutes. So I'll call that background. Is this a good stopping place? It's not, because of this one piece. I think other than that one piece, this is not bad. I think what I did last time, I think I had less of them and they were larger and they wrapped quicker, and that's how I got around this. Again, though, as always, there's so many different ways you can do this kind of a thing. And now, the game does not end if I actually hit something, but it could, in theory. We got like 5 minutes left. I guess I could, well, that one clipped a little bit. I could put in a little bit of, we could either make this look more like a 2D game, or I could put in a little bit of collision detection real quick. So if you're watching this, did you think that something like this could be put together? this quickly in, I mean, look at how many lines of code. You got 28 lines of code in spacebar to jump and 33 in move and wrap. I mean, that's 60 lines of code with, you know, a bunch of comments. And again, this is all kind of spaced out for clarity, not like super efficient. 60 lines of code. You've practically got Flappy Bird. There's no collisions. There's no game over. There's no score. Not hard to do, though. Not hard to get there from where we are. And that's, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop where I am. It's a good stopping place. So I hope this encourages you, especially if you've tried to use Unity, and have not been able to figure it out. I hope this encourages you to see that a game does not have to be hundreds and hundreds of hours. A good game, yeah, probably. But my goal here is to make simple, complete games in 4 sessions, about 4 hours, something like that. Because it can be done. This is a Flappy Bird type game. That's what I'm making this month. Next month or the month after, I'm going to make a Space Invaders Galaga type game. One of my friends is an artist, and I've talked to him about doing some characters for it. He and I might get together in virtual reality and sculpt out the characters and talk it out and work it out. We'll record all that. That'll be a bonus session, but the characters will be included. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you like this format. Got a lot of different games. There's a lot of games that can be built like this Flappy Bird, Space Invaders kind of a thing, something like Hole.io, like Pac-Man. I mean, going back to old Atari games, you know, something where there's one called Cannonball that something moved across the top of the screen and dropped cannonballs that you had to catch. You had 3 little buckets stacked on top of each other, and if you missed one, you lost a bucket. That was a game that people paid like $40 for at the time, which was a lot. By Activision, I think it was called Cannonball. Little guy with, like a burglar mask on. He's dropping bombs. Kaboom. It was called Kaboom. I don't know. Not important. I see now I might need to move the mascot of the channel since it's right up next to my face most of the time. But not right now. That's okay. So, I am Greg. I'm the creator of Superhero Coding. Let me know what you think of this. Do you like this format? Was this helpful? That's what I really want to know. Was this helpful? Does this help demystify some stuff, even if you didn't understand everything that happened? And do you want to see more of these? Are you excited about seeing a full, complete, but simple, but complete game made live stream? Not doing anything behind the scenes in a handful of sessions. Let me know. Like, subscribe. Hey, tell a friend. If this is helpful, send it to somebody and be like, hey, this is really helpful. And yeah, next session, we're going to get into collisions. And that'll be like end of game. That'll be, we can do player lives once we get a UI system in there. How many lives you have, collisions, the original one, they ended the game so they could show you an ad. Now we made a lot of ad money. But maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to have 3 lives. Maybe you don't want it to be a Flappy Bird. We can change all that stuff. But I'm